It's been a while. It's been a while.
It is.
Okay, how are you doing?
I'm actually fantastic. How are you doing?
I am running on fumes. I'm here in the hotel lobby here at the Marriott in somewhere, Rhode Island, looking at Roger Williams College with Allison's son. And it's been a week. It's been a long week. I've been living out of a suitcase, and I'm looking forward to coming home tomorrow and sleeping with my dog. That's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I'm trying to share our live thing. I'm not ignoring you. I never had it pop up before. Join us live.
Let's watch the two Gen Xers balance technology and
hope nobody
and analog discussions. So it looks like here we were going to talk about the seller's market, or the the direction the market is going for sellers.
Yeah, I think the big question out there is, well, I don't think it's enough of a question. I think sellers, everybody always takes a while to shift, right? And so yes, it is still a seller's market, and it is projected to be, I think Zillow came out and projected an 11% property increase for Goldman Sachs said 16%. I think Zillow said 11 is what I just read. So I could be wrong, but regardless, it's going to still be
a strong seller's market.
A strong seller's market, but there is definitely, as I said, it went from white hot to red hot, which there is a difference. And I think sellers need to understand that you can no longer you're not chasing the market up anymore. You are now starting to, even though it's a very slight incline going down, it is nonetheless.
So the days of almost everything selling in 48 hours for 3% over asking are coming to a close, and maybe we're going to sell in 2 weeks or a month for at or slightly below asking, which is what I'm seeing. There was a kind of a peak there between, I want to say March and about July, where it was just like a cartoon, like it was a caricature. Now things are getting slightly cooler, but it is still very much a seller's market. That is what we are seeing. Things are going to happen to cool it off, such as a little bit more distress coming from parts of the market that are no longer protected by foreclosure moratoriums. Maybe buyers getting a little bit discouraged and fewer of them looking in earnest.
Well, buyers also
nothing lasts forever.
Well, as I say, buyers also sense the end is near. I mean, you've got some buyers who maybe still didn't find something since pre-pandemic and say, all right, this can't really go on for more than another year, can it?
Yep.
And so they're waiting. They shouldn't be waiting because money is so inexpensive, and that's projected to go up. But nonetheless, we're kind of speaking from the perspective of a seller. So without having, bidding wars as often, that price doesn't get driven up. So now you're going to have more of a stationary price, which again is not something that you don't want to be chasing it in the wrong direction. You want to be proactive. It's still the kind of market, if you underprice it, you're going to get over ask, and it's going to end up where it's supposed to be. But I would say, and our friend Marie Graham would definitely say, that it's back to, we were saying a few months ago, the best thing you can do to make your house more valuable is put it on the market.
Yeah, just put it on.
But yet at the same time, now you may want to do some of those items that, take away from curb appeal. What was that?
Us.
Oh. So yeah,
you may want to do
do some of those things that, we spent the last almost 2 years telling you, don't worry about it. Don't bother with that. You won't need to do that. That's basically what we've been telling sellers. So now I think that conversation has shifted quite a bit as well.
So I got one question for you. Okay. You mentioned that you think, because money's cheap, do you really think rates are going to go up much? And I'll tell you why I'm asking. We've been threatened by prognosticators in the industry that rates are going to start to go up for probably 10 years now. And they just continue to go down. And I remember when 5% was historically low, then it was 4%, then it was 3%. And I got news for you. I think especially with people concerned about inflation, that whether it's counterintuitive or not, I think that there's still room for rates to go down even more. That's what I think.
Well,
I think rates could go down even more because we don't have a subprime monster to stimulate the market the way we did in 04, 05. We can still manipulate rates. I don't think it's a wise idea, but I think rates, even if they did, let's suppose rates went up to 4%. Is that so terrible?
Well, Phil, if you're a first-time home buyer in like a $200,000, $300,000 price point, if that exists anymore in our area, yeah, it could make a huge difference in your monthly payments and what you can afford.
Right. You'd have to lower your budget. It would suppress prices a bit. Right.
In an already suppressed price point. So I do think for that market that is super, super hot, right, which is under 500,000
in our market,
which used to be under 300,000 in our market.
Yeah.
So they're already stretched to a limit. Most of them are already stretched to a price point that originally wasn't where they wanted to be. And then you couple in there even a 0.5% interest rate does make a big difference in your monthly payments.
I think that we would adjust. I think that you're not old enough to remember this, but back in the early, say what?
Aren't I the same age as you?
Yeah, that was a joke.
Oh,
I was kidding. You're not. You're younger than I am. You're 3 years younger than I am. I'm 39.
Like we're not in. It's not the difference between second grade and fifth grade.
No, it's not. It's not. But you and I both remember in the 80s when interest rates were up at 15 and 20%, but prices were still going bananas.
Yeah.
From 1980 to 1986, the appreciation of real estate was absolutely bonkers, even though rates were crazy. Okay. Now, a lot of things were different back then. There was a lot of other crazy stuff, and savings and loans were doing a lot of stupid things. Okay. A lot of those loopholes have been closed. I am not worried for myself, and you've made a good argument, but I am not worried about rates going up. And I think there's enough play out there. There's enough people out there. There's enough money floating around out there that people will make the adjustment. Maybe we won't have the same percentage of ownership as we did during the Bush administration, where it went over 70%. But I still think we'll have a strong, robust market because it's not about rates. That it's about shelter. It's about living indoors, right?
But at the same time, you do understand that there's like a housing crisis underway, right?
Yes.
Or in the makings, and literally in Westchester County, there are people who make $100,000 a year, which, by the way, combined income is like poverty level here, which is a whole nother story. But you've got people that earn $100,000 a year, maybe combined 140, whatever, that are homeless.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to live in a hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't find a rental, and they're not in a position to buy, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
so
the cop and the nurse,
think,
right? The mechanic and the teacher. Yeah.
I do think that it's important to pay attention to, because if you've had a hard time finding housing up till now, if interest rates go up and prices continue to rise, it's only going to get more difficult. So
I don't know if the prices will rise. I think they'll flatten out.
Well, we just said they're projecting 11 Zillow's.
Yeah, Zillow
11%, and Goldman Sachs came out with 16%.
Right. Well, I'm gonna.
And that 16% coming out from Goldman Sachs is going to make every hedge fund person just more wanting to invest in single family real estate.
That may be so. I think though that Zillow's prediction is self-serving because they're out there buying a lot of houses.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
And Goldman Sachs is backing up a lot of the iBuyers out there. So I think their predictions are self-serving. And I'm going to say something to you guys at Zillow, who I know many of you. You've been wrong before.
And Phil's never been wrong.
I'm great at being wrong. That's why I can recognize being wrong, right? I've raised being wrong to a high art. So believe me, I know wrong. I know screwing up. I'm very
And
good
guess
at
what? When you don't, I'm here to tell you.
it. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Cheers. They even spelled my name right at Starbucks.
PHIL.
PHIL.
Well, what other way is there to spell Phil?
PHILL, FIL. There's all kinds of things. Don't you know this whole joke, this whole urban myth about Starbucks will misspell anybody's name?
Here's the problem with Starbucks. All I want is a green tea. I walk into Starbucks, I say, "Can I have a green tea?" Which I would think is very simple. Nope. Then they ask me about the 11 kinds of green tea, and then I ask for a large, medium, or small, and then they give me a whole different kind of selection of the size that I'm supposed to.
All right. So I spent $5.41 on this thimble of coffee, and I did not buy it because I wanted coffee. Do you know why I bought it? Because I'm in Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I bought it because I needed Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Because we had our meeting with our friend,
our coach,
and Sunit. Love you. And I had no cell service whatsoever. I'm talking about not even no bar, not even like one bar, nothing. It was a brick.
All right, so let's go back to our sellers. So we agree that
the poor sellers,
should,
the poor sellers who are going to be in the driver's seat for the next 5 years.
Like, you know, like literally, there's agents out there that don't know how to answer the question. So my house came on the market on Thursday, and today is Monday. Why isn't it sold?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that because the market is has an absorption rate. It's not like a stock where it sells instantaneously. I mean, if you're an agent and you can't explain to somebody why their house hasn't sold in a week, first of all, you're not managing expectations, right? You should show people days on market. Days on market is 35 days, 40 days, 60 days, 3 days sometimes.
So to translate that, Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. and Mr. sellers, you should be asking those kind of questions. And if you have an agent who doesn't know the answers or isn't actually providing you with these kind of stats, because that's what's important for you to know. Literally in our MLS, we went down to a 30-day market, 30-day absorption rate. That's crazy because it takes like 90 days for houses to close. So yes, that's what, you know, from on the market to contract. But we have a very slow process in this area where inspections are done and the negotiations go back and forth on inspections. So honestly, a 30-day absorption rate is more like a 3-day absorption rate in reality.
That's very true because it takes weeks to get under contract. That is true. We're weird here in New York. That we have to admit. By the way, your face froze in a very humorous expression there for just a moment. It's very my name is Earl.
Well, my baby girl Zendaya, she doesn't say no or yes. She has just faces. And so when it's no, she literally goes like instead of saying no. I'm like, what the heck is
that? That is like that's visual onomatopoeia.
And then she like moans.
That's what I would call that. Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Oh, you know what she's thinking for sure. She has her words, but you know, why use words when you can just make facial expressions?
Well, so that is your job is to tell her to use her words.
Yeah, but absolutely.
I've said use your words a lot.
Yeah, I use too many words. So in summary, I think we agree that sellers need to take into consideration the current climate. Yep, it's definitely still a seller's market, but we encourage you to put your best foot forward. Don't make any major investments. I would agree with that. But have your realtor professional come in, take a look around the house. Curb appeal is obviously super important. Keep investing in those virtual tours, the 360 3D tours, super important, because even though the world is reopening, a lot of people have come to be very comfortable with that process and don't necessarily want to go see 10 houses, to limit it down to the 2 that they're super interested in.
Matterport was around 6-8 years before the pandemic.
Yeah. And we were using it.
Yes, we were. We were early adopters. That is for sure. 3D tours were just smart business, pandemic or no. Our market, for example, you got a buyer in Park Slope who's going to drive 90 minutes to Westchester County. They're going to want as much information as they can get. And there was a period there where Google was outrunning our industry. We would have millennial buyers ask us, about Google Street View, an easement that showed up on a map. We didn't know about it. We have caught up and regained the lead in information, but it is still important that we stay ahead of the curve with giving consumers what they want. So 3D tours are no longer this huge value add. In the late 80s, if you said to a consumer, list your house with me because I have a cell phone, you had a big value add. In 2009, that was no longer a big value add that you had a cell phone. I mean, you have a car, right? So sellers also need to understand what the definition is of a seller's market. And it doesn't mean that your house is going to sell in 48 hours for $30,000 over asking. Seller's market can simply mean you'll sell within a reasonable period of time. You may have more than one offer, and you'll probably get something at or near asking, but it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed this windfall. Otherwise, we're just going to live in hyper housing inflation, which is already bad enough. And we're going to have 2-bedroom cottages selling for like $1 million, as they do some places already.
And not putting your best foot forward could cost you $10,000 or $5,000 or $20,000. Yes. So, they're going to go back to not waiving appraisals, not waiving inspections, and doing their due diligence, and going with their gut feelings, where gut feeling kind of just went by the wayside. I need a freaking house. I need some place to live. I agree with that.
Yep. We have a listing that $1 million, 6 offers, only one of them was full price. Yep. And that one fell off. Now they're still going to get 99 point. Sorry.
That's the trend too. The deal's falling apart.
Yeah.
You're seeing that happen.
A little buyer's remorse shows a little cracks in the foundation of consumer confidence, or consumers having irrational exuberance.
Agreed.
So the buyers have to agree with the irrational exuberance, or else the sellers are just being unrealistic. Sellers had a period of 6 months here where they could be irrational. That cannot last. Irrationality is not a business model. It could be a business phase, but it is not a business model. So we've had a little bit of irrationality, and now we're returning to earth, but it's still going to be a good time to sell.
Agreed.
I think we've beaten this horse dead, Jennifer. And I'm losing my voice.
That's okay. So everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in to Real Estate Unscripted. But we'd also love to hear your ideas, buyers and sellers out there, or future buyers and sellers, of the topics that you would like to hear. So please post below any things you would like to hear us go off on a unscripted tangent about. And please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for tuning in.